Today, we are going to talk about why the home environment matters. Your home can either fuel stress or be a space that fosters security for your neurodivergent child. So, we will unpack that because the world outside, the social settings, can often overwhelm our neurodivergent kids. And home should be that special place that help them decompress. And often parents are the safe zone for their children. So, Kirsten, how can parents remain a safe zone while still maintaining boundaries for their neurodivergent children?
Well, neurodivergent kids often feel that they have to mask their behaviors in public spaces, right? Whether it's in social settings or in school or maybe even with extended family. So if you look at the situation, home should be the place where they can be themselves, right? And it's very important for parents to create that safe environment because not only does it boost the child's self-esteem, but it also gives the child a chance to kind of, I don't know what the word is, kind of like their identity. So like they accept who they are and they feel safe around their parents. So I think that is definitely something.
And often you'll find that parents are the only safe zone for the kids. So going home should be that environment where they feel emotionally regulated. They feel they don't have to mask who they are. And without that foundation of a strong home environment, they might grow up feeling like something is wrong with them. And we don't want that because that can lead to anxiety or depression or even self doubt. So the home environment is kind of critical and essential for the child's growth and the child's kind of journey to discovery of themselves so that they can understand who they are. And by understanding who they are in that home environment, it makes them more comfortable or confident to go out into the world and be who themselves.
Absolutely, very well said. I like the way you both put it. So now we're going to help you as the parent at home or the guardian with a few strategies that you could apply to create this safe haven for your neurodivergent child at home. Maybe, Benita, you could start with maybe a first strategy that comes to your mind that you think parents can easily apply.
As we know, it's often that neurodivergent kids, they thrive when there's structure and routine. So ensuring that there's that predictability at the beginning of each day, that a child can expect, that helps reduce any stress they might feel throughout the day. So I would encourage parents to share their daily plans with their kids, give the kids an idea of what what their day is going to look like, and that can kind of help the kid get through the day or manage whatever comes their way because they know this was meant to be here, so they can kind of take that challenge on with confidence and without feeling any anxiety and things like that. So I would suggest that, but obviously there are things like ensuring that the home is sensory friendly, right? So
Yeah,
maybe,
that was going to be my next point.
yeah, so
Yeah,
maybe you can talk about that, Kristen.
yeah.
Yes, so I think another routine would be creating safe spaces. For example, at Kids Innovate Africa, we have the Sensory Cave, which really helps our students actually when it comes to robotics and coding or even animation and game development when they're feeling stressed or, they're feeling some type of way, then they can at least go to the Sensory Cave to feel calm and relaxed, right? So if parents can implement this at home, because obviously some of them are sensitive to like light, sound, or whatever. So if parents can implement this strategy at home, it will be a good thing to help these kids because obviously you can adjust the home environment to suit your child's needs. And I think it's really important to maybe create like a safe space where your child can just relax, or when they're feeling a bit overwhelmed or something like that.
Yeah, I like the way you put it. You put it so simply. And as
Mm.
you say, if I may add, that a home environment is one area that parents have control over,
Mm.
unlike in school, right? So I'm going to move on to Bennitha. I want to hear your views around, um, you know, using clear communication when parents engage with their children. How important is that as a strategy?
I think clear communication is very essential and important for the child's growth. Not just so that the child can understand what is happening throughout their day to day, because when this is your child, right, you have to make decisions that will affect them. So it's very important that we are able to communicate those decisions with our children, because it's not, at the end of the day, we're not the ones that are going to be maybe engaging in those activities. So making it more of a collaboration, in terms of communication, will help just ensure that things go more smoothly.
Yeah.
Because if I'm able to communicate with you and let you know that at this time we'll be doing this activity, and then at this time you'll have a play date, and then at this time there's dinner.
Mhm.
If I'm able to communicate that with my child, it's so much easier when it comes to time to do those activities or to shift gears. Then the child can understand, okay, now I've reached this time, it's time for me to eat now. So ensuring that there's that clear communication in terms of sharing the activities with your kids, as well as in the routines that's going to help them get through the day.
Absolutely.
So yeah,
Yeah.
communication is very important.
Yeah, and to your point, clear communication. So remove the ambiguity, so
Yeah.
that when you're giving instructions to the child, they're not left wondering, did mom mean this or did they mean that? So reduce the amount of decision making they have to make around interpreting the communication you've just shared with them.
And I think a cool technique, I don't I think this might help, is something we do in the office, where we do this kind of three-way communication, where if you're telling me you're relaying a task to me, in order for us to establish that there was clear communication, I would have to relay that task to you, and then you would respond by stating whether I've understood that task or not. So I think this is a very cool technique that you could possibly find that in the home. It's very helpful, because at least we know that this clear communication is happening, and that both kind of sides understand what is going to take place.
Absolutely. So I like that you've really been very descriptive in helping the parents at home understand. We've touched on three of these strategies, Kirsten, but I know Bennitha in her answer covered a little bit around transitioning. So how important it is for parents of neurodivergent children to communicate transition between tasks. What are some of the things they can use? For example, if the child is doing homework, how do they know after homework what comes next and when? What are some of the things that parents can do? Could they use things like timers maybe to avoid the confusion and therefore the anxiety?
Yes, so I definitely think when it comes to transition, it also kind of ties in with positive reinforcement, right? Because you need to encourage and praise your child's strengths no matter what, because that kind of boosts their confidence as well. But when it comes with the transitioning, for example, when the child is doing homework, I know some of our parents at Kids Innovate Africa, they do it with their kids. So when it comes time to doing homework, they often put like a timer on to time the child to get maybe one math sum done in 5 minutes. And they also implement like breaks or even snack time, because that obviously helps stimulate the brain. Um, so I definitely think using a timer, taking breaks, and all of that works. Yeah, Benny, what do you think about it?
I think also what I've heard from some of the parents is making they kind of trying to balance the use of timers and kind of a reward at the end, so that the kids look forward to something and they strive towards achieving that goal or finishing that activity. So that kind of helps the learner kind of understand, by the time if I finish my homework at the specific time, there's a reward waiting. So that encourages the kid to finish their homework on time, so that the parents don't have to go overtime, and that they can remain on schedule, and the kids get something in exchange. Maybe they'll get 5 minutes on the iPad, and then they can then transition to the next activity, which I think parents have found that to be smoother, because like kids like rewards, as we all know, and that kind of helps in ensuring that the routine measures are in place.
Absolutely. And I'm just going to run through these additional strategies that parents can apply. And one in particular was mentioned by one of the parents that came for a recent neurodiversity event, where she talked about how it can be so isolating as a parent of a child on the spectrum. In fact, she's just tired of explaining, her child's behavior to friends when they get invited for social gatherings. And she says, I rather just stay at home because I just don't want to have to explain why my child is behaving a certain way. So an opportunity there is to say, isolation is not a good thing. Educate family members. It's another strategy. Educate family members about neurodiversity. You might just be surprised of the amount of support your family and friends can give you. So it's really important. It's part of the strategies of creating a safe haven at home for your child on the spectrum. And the other thing that we do really well is celebrating the individuality of the child and make sure they are aware that they're being celebrated. I mean, there's a few other strategies that we're not going to cover. In closing, what are the facts? What are the facts about the sensory tools that can be used to reduce the meltdowns?
I mean, there is a fact here that says that visual support improves task transitions by 60 to 30%. So in one of our episodes, 60 to 70%. So in one of our episodes, I was discussing with Kirsten how neurodivergent learners thrive when they understand the bigger picture. So by helping them understand the bigger picture using visual aid, that also makes the routine so much easier, right? So making use of that, so that if a neurodiverse learner can see the end result, they can work towards that end result, and then get between this task and then move on to the next task, and then eventually um, complete the day with all the tasks that they predicted would occur. So I feel like visual aid is beneficial, it's impactful, and it can really help change the way we look at scheduling and helping ensure that our kids can get through the day.
Yeah. So in closing, for this segment in particular, so I'm going to talk to you parents. As a mom, sometimes I used to send my kids to their room as a punishment. But imagine this. Instead of saying, go to your room as a form of punishment, can you just say, come on, let's take a moment in your calm corner or in your sensory cave. And you will see how this shift entirely changes the energy of the moment. Try it.
Okay, so moving on to the next segment, right? We want to talk about how routine isn't about control. It's about safety and predictability, because we have established that neurodivergent learners thrive on like structure and understanding what's happening. So, what's your view on ensuring that routines are not like too controlled, and that there's kind of a leeway where it's more collaborative and not just a parent enforcing a routine on the child?
Well, some of the things I would say is, when it comes to the morning rituals and bedtime and meal times, for example, I think it's very important for parents to be flexible when it comes to these neurodivergent kids. So, for example, if there's a child who's got sensory issues, maybe sensitive to light or sound, I think, in today's society, like the traditional thing is you sit at the table and you eat meals, right? And you must talk to your family members. But I think the flexibility can come in where, you're eating dinner as a family, but your child has got the noise cancelling headphones on because they're sensitive to the noise. And I think also instead of like this daily routine of, oh, go brush your teeth, go to the bathroom, go shower, I think make it more fun and interactive in the mornings. Maybe you have like a chart that's got pictures of like the daily tasks that the kids need to do before they go to school. Or maybe make like a fun game out of it. Like Benny said, add a reward at the end. So if you brush your teeth, you'll get McDonald's or something like that. But I think it just needs to be more interactive. And yeah, what do you think, Coach Emma?
Yeah, certainly routines are important for children that have got autism or ADHD, because without routines, it becomes overwhelming for them. It gets them really. It gives them anxiety. But if you have routine and a level of predictability, it helps calm down the nervous system. They know what's coming and they know when it's coming. More than that, routine helps build confidence and independence, because essentially, as parents, we're not raising these kids for ourselves, right? We're here today, we might be gone tomorrow. Yeah, we want to make sure that we empower our kids to have a level of independence or grow towards independence and confidence. So we do that by establishing routines. It actually boosts their sense of control and responsibility, as well as success in everyday tasks that they have to do. So we cannot underestimate the importance of routine.
And I also want to talk about, there are also instances where there's a routine that a child doesn't particularly like, but it's essential for the day. Like we know, brushing teeth. It's sometimes it's overstimulating because of the different bristles.
Taste as well of the toothpaste.
Yeah, and kids don't really like that, and they kind of want to brush past that. And they want to do what they enjoy the most, and we need to understand as parents. It's important for them to engage in that routine, but how are we communicating that it's important for their child to complete this routine? Because obviously, if you do not brush your teeth, you'll end up at the dentist and all of that. So, communicating the essential routines that might not be very enjoyable to the child is also very important. So, making sure we use language like first, then, right? So, first we brush our teeth, then we play. That kind of language improves the compliance and reduces kind of like the power struggle that may occur when a child doesn't want to do that specific routine.
And the prioritization.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely prioritization. Kirsten, I wanted to hear your point, your opinion. I think the University of Michigan recently released something about routine and children. Can you touch a little bit on that? The University of Michigan. What did they say?
Exactly would you like to know about?
What did they say? Because we're talking about routine here, right?
Yes.
But there's been scientific research around the value of routine, and the University of Michigan has pointed it out. What does it say? What is it about exactly?
So, the University of Michigan says that children with consistent morning routines had better emotional regulation and fewer behavioral incidents. Right? So, yes, and then
I think it basically shows the importance of having a routine and how that can kind of really reduce anxiety and stress. And that's basically truth. Like it's been tried and tested, right? The University of Michigan has tried this with, I'm assuming,
They've done a research.
they've done research on this, right? So it does work.
Yeah.
Essentially, is what we're trying to say.
Yeah.
Like having consistency helps with the emotional regulation and the predictability, and it reduces behavioral incidents because the child knows and understands that this is this is a part of my routine, and for me to get to the fun routine, I have to do this routine.
Indeed.
So that kind of reduces the behavioral outburst, because I don't want to go to school, but if I go to school, then I can play with my iPad for an hour.
Yes, exactly. And I think this is some of, you're actually expressing what some of our students usually say, like I'm thinking of Noah, who says, I don't touch my tablet or my iPad during the week because I have to study. I mean, this is like a grade 4 kid, right? I have to study, I have to write, I have to read. I only get it for 1 hour or 2 hours on a Sunday. How is that for a mom or a dad who has managed to take hold of this routine thing for their child on the spectrum? Maybe for you parents at home, think of a routine as some kind of a GPS, right? It helps your child know where they are going and when they have arrived safely to their destination. Moving on.
Perfect. So we are going to be moving on to the next segment, which is connection over correction, right? So emotional connection regulates the nervous system faster than punishment ever could. So, Coach Emma, what are some ways in terms of validating the feelings of these neurodiverse learners without rescuing them? Do you have any examples?
Without doing what?
What are some ways that you can help validate the feelings of the neurodiverse learners without rescuing them? For example, like, I see this is hard for you, instead of calm down, sit. Yes.
Absolutely. I mean, I like that you've kind of guided me by giving me that example, but safety first. That should be the approach, whether we are a teacher or we're a parent, we're an auntie of a child on the spectrum. We want to provide or create a safe environment, right? When children feel safe or emotionally safe, it's much easier for them to listen to an advice that maybe an adult is giving them, right? So it's much easier for them to not have anxiety. Oh, I've just made a mistake, and this is a big deal, and don't know how to fix it. I'm in trouble. Mommy's gonna shout at me, or teacher is gonna be upset with me. But if you have built that safe environment and assure the child, I mean, mistakes are part of growing and they're part of learning. So if we create a safe environment where the child can feel comfortable to say, yes, I've made a mistake, I need to be able to own up. I need to be able to accept that I've made a mistake and listen, because this person is really not attacking me.
Yes, so I definitely agree with that. But one thing that I would like to point out is that correction without connection breaks trust, right? So it breaks the trust between the parent and the child and the individual. So what do you have to, Benny, do you have any point of view on this?
I think on this section, I'd like to say that when it comes to it's very important that we have a connection over correction. And what do I mean by that is that children kind of mirror the emotional state of an adult, right? So it's very important that when you are correcting your child, that you can kind of remain calm in that situation, because the kids can feed off your energy, right? So ensuring that your calmness fuels their calmness, right? So that there's kind of like that connection where the child doesn't feel like something bad is about to happen, or like it doesn't overregulate them in terms of the emotional state, and which could kind of potentially lead to an emotional meltdown. So we want to make sure that when we are correcting our kids, whether they are neurodivergent or not, that our calmness can feel theirs, and they can kind of feel like, yes, I've made a mistake, but at the same time, it's not like I did something wrong, or there's something wrong with me and I made this mistake. If you get what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I don't know if whether it's okay for the child not to feel the weight of the mistake or to take the responsibility. I mean, I'm thinking of, I'm a mom to teenagers, and I've had to apologize to my kids sometimes. I'm a human, right? Parents, we understand you're human, right? Sometimes, and this could sound very theoretical, but in practice, it's harder than it seems, right? When your child makes a mistake, your initial instinct, naturally, is to say, you don't listen. You do not listen. Why are you repeating this again? Why are you doing this? But as we're saying, practice makes perfect. Definitely by far, practice makes perfect. So as you say, building that emotional connection, it takes time, and the more we do it, the better we become. And what maybe I wanted to mention here, in our recent neurodiversity event, we had a dad. I don't know if you had a dad talking about asking the experts, what should we do? Because he said, I also have ADHD. And so like my child, when I'm anxious about something, I'm really so anxious, and I'm trying to find out what can I do to calm myself down before my child sees me. Because as Benita say, they feed off your energy, right? They feed off your energy, and once they fed off your energy and you have not been able to calm yourself down, and now it's all a meltdown of the parent and the child at the same time, which actually escalate the emotional tensions even further. So what the expert said, which I really loved, was to say, parents, you also need a therapist, right? As a parent, you might think, oh, I'm an adult and I've got emotional intelligence. I know how to keep control of the situation. We're just humans at the end of the day, right? You're not a perfect human being. Yes, you've been gifted with this child who has superpowers, who experiences challenges of their neurotypes, and you're also trying to navigate parenthood at the same time. So the experts advise, it was our clinical psychologist Maite Rabotata who mentioned that it's important that parents also have their own therapist, because the therapist will help you with some of the techniques you can apply even before your child comes. Yeah.
Yes, and I definitely think that ties in with it's very important that parents celebrate the progress of the kids and not the perfection, right? Because kids make mistakes, it's bound to happen, and no one is perfect. So I think it's very important for parents to kind of encourage that progress and to, what's the word I'm looking for?
To celebrate small wins? Is
Yes,
that what
to
you're looking for?
celebrate the small wins. So every step that the child makes needs to be celebrated, because not only is it boosting the child's confidence, but it's making them feel more comfortable in their identity, right?
In the neurotype.
In their neurotype, yes. So it's very important for them to celebrate that and not look at it as like, oh, my child's not perfect. Why is he not doing this like other kids are? So I think parents, it's very important to celebrate every small step that your child takes, celebrate it and make it a win. Coach Emma, do you have anything to say to close the chapter of this episode?
I think you kind of said it, but I'm going to speak directly to you, mom and dad, or mom, or the guardian. Instead of focusing on fixing the behavior, ask, how do I help my child feel safe enough to return to come? I'm going to repeat. Instead of focusing on fixing the behavior of your child, take time to ask, how do I help my child to feel safe enough to return to a state of calm? Okay, so parents, my colleague Kirsten has just mentioned, we need to celebrate those small wins, right? Small wins become big growth, big moments of growth. So we want to encourage you to say, the stuff that we covered today, it might sound very overwhelming. You might not even know where to start, but we encourage you, play this video over and over again. See what you want to take out of this conversation and see what you want to leave out of this conversation. And just take whatever it is that is implementable from your perspective. So, and as we say, just choose one sensory change. right? Because one routine shift and one connection strategy to try this week. Celebrate.
So I'd like to conclude by saying that, like Kirsten said, we want to celebrate our kids' progress and not perfection. Routine is not about perfection, it's about ensuring that every day our child is just a little bit a step further than they were yesterday. And I want to remind you guys, as parents as well, that you don't have to do it alone, right? There are spaces like Kids Innovate Africa, amongst others, that are trying our best to support you guys as parents to ensure that you are not going through a meltdown and that you can always kind of be available and ready when your child needs you in that home environment that you have created for them, because we want our kids to thrive, right? So I want you guys to know that you're not alone and that you can reach out, build a community. We're ready to answer any of your questions and provide as much support as we can. And yeah, tonight, maybe ask your child what helps your brain feel calm at home and try your best to implement it. You never know what you might get out. You might even find out something new about your kid, and that can really change the narrative and help shift it to a better home environment that is catered for them and for you as well, because yeah.
Guys, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you have not seen the previous YouTube video, the link will be in our description as well as our socials.